Johansson.
It is comfort Erod vibes in terms of you can use him on wing if they don't need that center depth, if Ross Colton's vying for that place, which I think was part of the plan. I think Ross Colton was designed to be an Avs future 2C somewhere along the way. There's still some work to be done, and I think there's been
they certainly paid him like it.
Yet another center to talk about for the Avs trade deadline frenzy, but at this point we're working potentially into ones that would operate down the lineup for the Colorado Avalanche. We've already looked at Nick Seeler coming from the Flyers. What about a Scott Laughton coming from the Flyers? His production, certainly for a guy, if you're talking about a bottom six player, is more than fine. He's also a guy that you would have locked up a little bit longer term with 2 more years after this one left on his deal. Does Scott Laughton make sense as an in-season move for Colorado?
Eric, you're a fan.
I'm a fan. Here's what I'll say. I know how Torts is, and I know that Torts speaks highly of him, likes him a lot. He's a heart and soul guy, all character. Yeah, the production is not there. You're right. It's not a top 6 or true 2C, whatever. I hate those words, but again, what is the cost of acquisition? It all goes into that, but is it a better fit than what they have now? That would be making do on, instead of fixing the Ryan Johansson problem, you would be trying to make do and, kind of fix it differently instead of getting a true, for example, Enrique or, I think what you're doing with that is you're piecing a puzzle together and hoping that you can patch it where it works. Can it work for 4 rounds? I don't know. Did it work for the Avs in 0-1 for Avalanche 1.0? You lose Forsberg and then you kind of rearrange something with Heinold and Drury, and kind of worked for a couple. Could it have worked for 4 rounds? Maybe not, but it worked for 2, right? For the time that he was gone. So I don't know if that's the answer that you're going for a trade deadline. I think it's more a summer thing if you're going to address it. But then again,
why wait?
That's why I'm saying, yeah, exactly. Why wait? Because I think you're just piecing something together instead of
really solving the problem.
You're going to say, yeah, but we talked about Wenberg, and you said, well, yeah, I'd rather do that than nothing. How's that? Whatever that is, I don't know what the acquisition would be. I really don't. I'm not sure.
The difference with those, with Wenberg, he expires at the end of the year, and if you don't like it, he walks.
Yeah, that's my point.
And you move on. Scott Laughton signed for 2 more years after this.
You better be right.
At $3 million, it's a very reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable number, but with Ross Colton already there,
yep, a lot of the same now.
Yeah, it's and are either one of them good enough offensively to really be put? Because for me, if you get Scott Laughton, you got a 3C. You don't have a 2C. You get a 3C and you move Ross Colton up into between Nichushkin and Lehkonen, and you say, all right, we're going to see how this goes. And you break up that little chaos line that's worked so well this year. That's fine. I don't think you have to be so glued to that line that you can't make roster moves to try and get better. And he's cost efficient. You like that aspect of it. That's all good and well. That's fine. What I'm curious about with Scott Laughton and what gives me pause is that there has been a precipitous decline over the last 2 seasons. That coincides perfectly with John Tortorella taking over as head coach with the Flyers. So there's something about it. Torts loves him, talks about him all the time. You're not wrong when you say he's a heart and soul guy. He's all character. He's a super try hard and whatever. But in terms of the results, his on ice play,
it's average.
It is tanked under Torts. And you wonder, is this a better environment? Would this be a better system to make use of Laughton? Would you feel like maybe you could juice a 20-goal scorer out of him if he was playing? But
that's a big ask.
It's just a little bit more. Now, obviously, it's a lot more than what he has this year right now. But in his career,
this guy has one 18-goal season,
right? And
was the season before last,
recent, but
Torts' first year.
Beyond that, it's 13 as his next highest.
Right. And so you are saying, okay, can you get that out of him? Okay, no. So we're saying no. Then he is your 3C. Ross Colton, who has pushed into the higher goal totals, then should be your 2C. The downside here is that you kind of lock yourself into it. And Scott Laughton is not a face-off monster or anything. You know, he's very versatile. So if something else happens in your lineup and you do find another C somewhere, he could swing over to wing just fine, and he's still on a reasonable contract.
So he's JT Compher.
You should have just led with this.
I mean,
he's JT Compher with way worse on ice results the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Really, really, really. They have gone from being he might be one of the more underrated forwards in the league to this guy is getting way overrated right now in this moment. You're looking for a big-time Colorado bump out of the guy.
Yep.
And look, they are obviously different players, but we've seen that happen with Jonathan Drouin.
It's true.
We've also seen it happen with
plenty of guys. Go
a
through
whole bunch of cats
Arturi
over the
Lehkonen,
years.
Val
Yeah.
Nichushkin, Evan Rodriguez. The list goes on.
Yeah, and the list of guys that have not worked, it's like Tomas Tatar and Ryan Johansson.
It is Compher Erod vibes in terms of you can use him on wing if they don't need that center depth, if Ross Colton's vying for that place, which I think was part of the plan. I think Ross Colton was designed to be an Avs future 2C somewhere along the way. There's still some work to be done, and I think there's been
they certainly paid him like it.
Controversy. There's been a lot of unforeseen challenges that have come up in this year that I think have forced him into that role maybe sooner than we'd like to see, and the talent around him isn't exactly what they would have envisioned. But looking at Laughton, I think it is interesting that under Torts, his first year was a career high season for him with 43 points and the 18 goals. It's a little bit more average this year, and I think it's interesting because when we do the Morgan Frost video, we'll talk about this, but his usage has sort of moved around how Torts feels about Morgan Frost that day. And so it has primarily been Philly's 4C. And so I think 30 points, if he is primarily playing fourth line minutes, isn't so bad. Now, again, if you are bringing this guy in to be the 2C, that's not really great, but he's also another special teams guy, a guy that can help take faceoffs on the PK, big PK guy, actually. Not sure you'd see him a lot on the Avs power play just because that second unit's already pretty stacked. Tough. So don't see the need for that there necessarily, but when I see pictures of this guy, I don't realize that he's only 29 years old. He looks so much older to me. And I use that as a segue to make mention that he actually is good speed. And that would probably fit Colorado pretty well. Like, just by looking at him, I don't necessarily think that. But he actually is decent speed, high volume shooter. Don't know that the production will be where you would need it to be for a second line center, but I don't hate his fit. It's similar to what we were talking about with Wenberg. He's my Wenberg. Like, I'd rather see them do this than do nothing, exactly like Eric said.
I second that.
All of this sounds great.
I just want to say that Scott Laughton picture that we have looks like the face of a man who just was told by Megan that he looks old.
All of this sounds great in a world where Ross Colton is ready to be the 2C. Problem is, I don't think he is. So you're now stuck with two guys who probably aren't 2Cs right now that you have to play there, or you're paying $3 million to a guy who's playing 4C for you. Tough.
No, I'm not doing that.
I know you're just moving him to wing. I get it, but
yeah, I mean, I'll find an answer before I'm playing him at 4C. I think he is a guy that you can do a lot of things with. I think that the fall off is probably overstated, and it's way more about what's happening around him right now than it is about him in particular. But because his contract is for 2 more years, even at $3 million for 2 more years, you are making a pretty serious bet that you're right about that.
That's a good point.
Because any team that is acquiring him is saying, we think that this year is the anomaly. We think that this drop off over the last couple of years is
turn around. Yeah.
Is not going to be real, and that he's going to start going back up here pretty soon. And look, we've seen it with Sam Girard this year. Sometimes things happen in a person's life, and you get it squared away, and those numbers just
Yep.
There's and Colorado being the environment that it is, him being the person that he is makes me, it's what excites me most about this idea. And you know how many Stanley Cups Scott Laughton's won? Just kidding.
He's only 29. You're not allowed to do that for a 29.
He's only 29. I mean, it's the last time that he gets to do this in his 20s.
You're only allowed to say that about people older than me.
All right.
And here's why I say Philly will move on from him, because he has 2 years left, right? And this year they're not, I mean, let's assume they won't make the playoff. I mean, they're ahead of schedule and they're rebuilt. And my point is if they're doing their projection and they're signing in the guys and everything, he's probably a guy that's going to fall off. So it's like, well, next year, then it could hurt even more, because what if they're doing better? You always assume you're going to do better than next year. So let's say next year they are in a real playoff position. And I know they're right there right now, but oh my God, we're going to get rid of this guy right now at the deadline to go get an asset because you're going to lose him for nothing. So I think that's why they're going to trade him this year. Just my thoughts.
I vote they don't do that and they trade Morgan Frost instead. That's my vote. But we'll have to talk about that in Frost's video. Another center down. Still plenty more videos coming your way for Avs Trade Deadline Frenzy. We got more goalies to talk about. Everyone's favorite. Let's go to the next video.